Hey folks, I really wanted to kind of come in here and kind of talk to you about a kind of a hot button issue in the Nordic community, especially in the social media version of it, like on Facebook and TikTok and even on YouTube a little bit. And that is the Nine Noble Virtues, and just by default, let's throw in here the Assyrian Code of Nine, which are they're different. In the 90s, they were both very popular. A lot of people really adhered to them, hung them on their walls, do all that kind of stuff, myself included, until I learned where they came from. And then it's really hard to look at those with some sort of admiration when you know the philosophy behind putting them together. It doesn't really work, and the Norse community has figured that out and kicked it out. Now, even though each of those tenets are good, noble, valuable parts of being a good, useful human, but the collection, the way you put it together, matters. And in that case, that one's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because but I don't think we should do that. I think we should just probably develop a different system. Well, besides the fact that that's actually like a dollar store version of the Ten Commandments anyway. It's a less developed, less accepted, it's the Dollar General Ten Commandments is what the Nine Noble Virtues is, or at least that's the idea that they put something like that together to be, to answer that call for people who came here from a different path and are used to some sort of that kind of list of things. But I tend to default more towards that of the Stoics and the Stoic philosophy. And I don't want to merge traditions and culturally appropriate the Stoic philosophies, but they merge very well with the Nordic philosophies and the Nordic ideas. And if you were to take some of the readings and writings of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and put those in, next to the Havamal, you'd find a lot of things that actually complement each other. So I used Marcus Aurelius's, I think he calls it like the good virtues or something. I forget exactly. But they are courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. And those are the things that we kind of use to govern our lives. And we take very seriously here at Northwoods. And the first I'll talk about is courage. There's two types of courage. And they teach this in the Marines as well. And it's moral courage and physical courage. And physical courage is fairly plain to see. It's bravery. It's, let's run into that burning building and save those people. Let's go into war or battle. Let's fight these people off. Let's defend that person who's being, harassed or molested. Let's do these things to, put our body at harm's way just to defend these other people or to do what's right. Moral courage is a little different and it's a little harder because it's real easy to not be morally courageous. It's really easy to just turn a blind eye, walk away. So moral and physical courage are both very important tenets that we look for here in the Northwoods. And, in Kinsmen, we stand up for each other and against each other if one of us is kind of toeing the line and it's like, hey, you might be out of line here. But it takes moral courage to stand up to a kinsman and say, that's not the way we do things. We need to do better. And then temperance is essentially just moderation. It's like, do these things that you enjoy, that you love, that make you happy, but do them in moderation. Let's don't get sloppy, falling down drunk. Let's don't be glutton at the table. Let's take our portion and walk away and leave the rest so everybody else can have some if their seconds come back. So temperance is very important here as well. We all tend to try to at least think of the needs of everyone else, so that when we're consuming or using or bringing, that we temper what we want based on the needs of the group. So temperance is also an important factor here, and there's a lot more finite or minor pieces to both of those, courage and temperance. Justice is essentially served when you get what you deserve, right? Be good or bad. And here we kind of understand the philosophy of justice as in, it's not our place to administer justice. If somebody's out of line, we, push them on down the road. But we don't seek revenge, and we don't seek reparations, and we don't seek some way to make somebody pay for their crimes. You know what I mean? We just don't do that. Justice will serve itself in the natural flow, in the natural cycle of the natural world. It's been my experience that in most cases, you get back what you put out. And people that are always putting out, taking advantage of people and doing those sort of things, they always get that back in time. So we're not going to concern ourselves with applying justice. We're just going to understand the principle that justice will apply itself in due time, so that we can be complete and whole and comfortable with with what has happened and move on in our lives and not have to dwell too heavy on old stuff, especially old traumas, things like that. Justice will take care of itself. And the last one is wisdom. And wisdom is different than knowledge. You can read all these books. I have a great library here, and I've read most of them cover to cover, although some of them are just kind of like, they're more for searching out little things, whatever. I got a lot of really good books here, and I've read a lot of that stuff. But it doesn't do anybody any good if you can't take what's in that, especially the Nordic stuff, and apply it to your own path and your own life and the own way that you do business and the way that you interact with people. So wisdom's important, but it has to be developed, and it develops over time. You don't gain wisdom on the Nordic path by following the path for 2 years. You have to take time. You got to take time off, as I mentioned earlier, and let that stuff kind of settle in and become part of your life. And I read somewhere, it was kind of a really neat way to explain it, kind of like elementary way to explain it, and that is knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. So I laid it out here. That might make it a little helpful. There you go. I hope that helps. I'll see you guys later.